Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest. Not reacting to any more games, but a head coach firing. Dwane Casey of the Toronto Raptors has been let go. The team's parting ways. Ryker, the first thing we got to talk about is just the legacy of Dwane Casey. In my opinion, I think it's hard to dispute. He's the best coach in franchise history. He brought a team, Andrea Bargnani-led team, a dumpster dweller team, to the conference finals, to multiple playoff appearances. So before we talk about the actual firing and whether it was the right or wrong move, just a shout out to Dwane Casey, without a doubt the best coach in franchise history. Yeah. If you have any words about it before we get into
Masai
the
Ujiri's quote, he said Dwane Casey was instrumental in creating the identity and culture of who we are as a team, and we are so proud of that. I mean, that sums it up. He left, besides LeBron absolutely dismantling the Raptors and sort of tearing apart that legacy, or putting a taint at least on that legacy, other than that, the time with Dwane Casey was pretty well all up and no down, so it's not a terrible way to sort of end a career, except for, he ended it pretty poorly with a sweep on, when they were trying for the championship.
Well, I'm sure he'll be coaching somewhere else. He's too good of a coach not to be picked up for another team. But
players coach
definitely Dwane Casey. Year, right? Yeah, he was voted players coach, the coaches of the year, not the official coach of the year award yet, but the coaches tribune award. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but definitely an honor.
Okay, this is what I'm interested about, though. This is what I'm interested. Are you surprised, and should people be surprised?
Well, we knew after there was reports coming out that the Raptors were definitely looking at firing Dwane Casey, but I'm not surprised. I don't think, and we'll get into whether it was the right move or the wrong move, but I'm not surprised because we got swept back-to-back seasons. Every year, Dwane Casey seems to be on the chopping block, except for maybe that 2016 season. But he usually comes back. But, Dwane Casey never has really had that stranglehold on the Raptors head coaching position when we flame out in the playoffs. So I guess this was the year. This is the year we need to part ways. What about you, Ryker?
No, I agree. And we'll get into the reasons why we think it's good. It's a good decision that he should be fired, but I don't think that people in general should be surprised. I mean, especially if you look at sort of decisions that NBA franchises make. So just any sort of team, and we have a bunch of examples of coaches. I mean, George Karl, one of the biggest ones, I think, and coaches that exceed expectations. They do a terrific job in the regular season, and then poor performances in the playoffs, compiled, stretched into a run of multiple seasons of losing, whether it's first round exits or, underperforming, then they get fired. George Karl, Tom Thibodeau. So I don't think that people should be surprised by this move at all. And it's really only onward and upward for the Raptors. Yeah. And, even if they decided to – well, actually, we'll get into that in a minute. But it's no surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. But we weren't surprised. Was it the right move to make? Should we have held on to Dwane Casey for another season, run it back with the guys, or maybe run Dwane Casey back with another roster? Do you think it was the right move to get rid of Dwane Casey?
Running it back would be useless. The team isn't going to get any better under the current system. And they don't really minor moves aren't going to radically improve this team with the current coaching staff because the play calling in the playoffs was the biggest issue. I mean, Dwane Casey is a mastermind of rotations, but rotations wasn't enough to win in the playoffs. It took inspiration, guts, defensive commitment, and just maybe a lack of star players and matchups. And I think that a couple of big moves in something have to be done if the Raptors want to still work for that Masai 3-year window. And this is the first step, and I think it was a good step because same thing under that system they would have been stopped again against LeBron at some point in the Eastern Conference, assuming he stays in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Dwane Casey's the master of rotations. But that's where another place that I kind of disagree. I think Dwane Casey was a leader in the locker room, got a lot out of players. People really listened to him, and he made some great plays. He changed the offense. He's a tactical coach, but adjustments, and he doesn't really do many things different. That's why in the regular season he's so dominant. As you said, he can master a rotation. he can create one master plan that is very, inept at beating teams in the regular season that don't have time to plan. Because obviously, if you watch the Raptors games, you knew when someone was coming in, coming out almost to the minute every time if you watched more than 3 games. Because it was the same every game. But in the playoffs, every season, almost every series, you hear Jack Armstrong or what the announcer say. Actually, you'll see a lineup on the court because Dwane Casey has to throw out a different lineup in the postseason because teams adjust for that master plan that he's created throughout the regular season. So he'll try something different, but you'll hear the announcer say, actually, this lineup has had 0 minutes playing together throughout the regular season, right? And that's an issue because he didn't really spice things up in the regular season. And sure, that maybe got some wins for the Toronto Raptors when they don't really matter, but then these different lineups, these obscure lineups, don't really have time playing with each other. So you'll see a lineup like we rarely saw a lineup with Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, CJ Miles, Serge, and Jonas. And that was a lineup that could have been very effective in the playoffs because CJ is obviously a bit better spacer than OG. And then we see that thrown out there in the playoffs, and they aren't accustomed to each other. So I think Dwane Casey had, and this is another thing that Michael Grange pointed out, a reason why Dwane Casey was fired, that he had tendency to stick with the tired and the true rather than seek out new and different approaches. So I think Dwane Casey, he was a mastermind, but he really needed to branch out with different things. I think that was one of his flaws.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now, do you mean the tired and the true or the tried and the true? Because it would be hilarious if you meant the tired and the true.
Maybe the tried and the true. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that would be funny. The tired and the true, just because he was playing tired. Yep. That is what it looked like out there. Just tired, lazy lineups.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was one thing that irked me about Casey, and it's a reason he got fired. The one thing I like about this move too, because every year, obviously, we just started the podcast this year, so no one's heard our reactions past summers. But every year, most Raptors fans, I'd say the majority, wanted Casey gone. I think that's a fair thing to say. Maybe not after 2016, but last year after the Wizards series, and I heard some rumblings about it even after the Brooklyn loss. People were always at Casey's head, and Masai Ujiri stuck with him because he was a phenomenal coach. He was a great coach. That's something you can't take away from him. And Masai Ujiri stuck with him, but when he thought the time was right, and the fan base, they weren't really calling for Casey's head this year. Most people weren't going to be shook if Dwane Casey got brought back. And we've obviously heard that throughout the NBA. But this year he thought it was the right time to part ways with the coach, and he didn't care about what the fans and what the outsiders think. He did what was best for the team, in his opinion.
Yeah. I mean, surprisingly people are kind of shocked about this. Especially American
Especially people that aren't Raptors fans. People that are looking from a distance.
Yeah. I was getting a good laugh out of some of the tweets. Unless the Raptors hire LeBron as a player coach, they aren't going to do better than Dwane Casey. Which is fair enough. One person was like, it appears Dwane Casey was fired for maximizing the Raptors' potential. And see, that's flawed because they had more upside this season than what they showed in the playoffs, because they shouldn't have even lost 2 games against the Washington Wizards. And I apologize for anybody that believes that it was an evenly matched lineup, but even with a full healthy John Wall and Bradley Beal playing well together, the depth of the Raptors should have. Yeah,
we're the first seed. No, we're the first
seed. But
even
if they were a 4th seed or a 3rd seed, if they had to play to the best of their ability throughout the entire regular season, it shouldn't. I mean, 1 game max, not 2. And to split the season series with them.
Yep. And for sure. And the team is so dominant against top teams in the regular season. They have been the past definitely 3 years. They get wins. They get even clutch wins. It's not a clutch factor or a scared gene from DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. They've won big games in the regular season. But in the playoffs, we just don't get any easy wins. It's whether we're playing the Pacers in 2016, it's always going to Game 6, Game 7 if we're going to win, or we just get rocked like we do against Cleveland. So we really need to translate that success from the regular season that Dwane Casey is a big part of. But you need to make adjustments against these coaches that are attacking the Toronto Raptors.
Well, the best one before we move on though, the best tweet that I saw. said, listen, Dwane Casey had every opportunity to hire an assassin to kill LeBron James, and he didn't do it. What kind of leadership is that?
Yeah, that would have been a very controversial take. Maybe effective, but probably not the best.
No, we don't need any Tanya Harding sort of incident. But, I mean, the point certainly comes across. I think that there was – I mean, the Pacers did it. That's what agitates me the most, is that the Indiana Pacers brought the Cavaliers to 7 games. And they very well could have won the 7th game. And I would have taken the Raptors to beat the Pacers 4-1 in a series. And maybe that's optimistic thinking right now, but I still think that they would have done that if they were to play them tomorrow in a series, right? So, and that's coaching. That's some way of inspiring the team to play better defense on LeBron, right? And not giving up when he goes against runs. So, I mean, that's why I think it's good that Dwane Casey's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and not everything's on Dwane Casey, too. Another reason that Dwane Casey was the thing that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, Masai Ujiri, he built this 3-year window that we all praised last summer. We didn't want to blow anything up last summer. We wanted to keep this team, run it back for 3 more years, see what would happen. But we aren't trading these players with 2 years left on their contract. This is the least valuable time to trade DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, or Serge Ibaka, or any of these guys. And so we're going to just contract-wise, unless we get a stupid team like Brooklyn, sorry to all the Brooklyn fans out there, but a team that's going to make a dumb trade and give us 3 first-round picks or something obscure that Boston got, we aren't going to trade these players that are in 2-year deals. They'll have more value when they have 1 year left on their contract, because then it won't hit their cap the next summer, but we don't have much flexibility. And I think everyone would be frustrated if Masai Ujiri did nothing. And whether you're a Casey fan or not, I think that would be frustrating as a Raptors fan, because we don't want to see us come back, do well in the regular season, get hyped again, and then get squashed by Cleveland, because that's the repetition that's been happening. So Dwane Casey had to go. He was the one guy that we could possibly move without demoralizing, getting a really rough end of the stick.
That's true, but I mean, that's yet to be seen. There could be way more big blockbuster moves, I guess, that happen throughout the season. But this is the first of many sort of manipulated or calculated moves in a giant chess game that Masai Ujiri is orchestrating. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited.
And there's a lot of candidates out there too. We're gonna make a video on possible candidates for the Raptors coaching position. There's a lot of people that could be selected as well. So I don't think Masai Ujiri fired him without a backup plan.
Oh, yeah. He'd be stupid and rash to not have somebody already in the conversation. But, yeah.
In mind. Yep. Well, anyways, stay tuned for that video. We're going to break down the possible future coaches of the Toronto Raptors. And one last shout out to Dwane Casey. Phenomenal coach. Great man. Just a lot of respect for that guy. We know he's going to have success wherever he goes. Shout out to Dwane. We love you from Toronto Raptors, from all of Canada. You're the best. But, guys, thanks for listening. You made it this far. Check out the Instagram, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. Any last words, Ryker?
Nah, that's it for me.
All right. Thanks for listening.